Uh, Good afternoon, friends. Uh, Today, I'm really happy to be with you and sharing my perspective about menopausal depression. I have kept it as hormonal transition and focus on menopausal depression because I want to talk about all the things pertaining to the transition period phases of the woman's life and uh, menopausal depression, right? So, little depressive subject, I guess. You all will be already sleepy after a sumptuous lunch, and I guess we will have this session as interactive session rather than me talking and you all hearing, because we are all in the same cadre and we are practicing since our graduation, and I think we will have our inputs so that we will emerge out as better doctors, I think. So that will be I guess you can't unmute yourself. Please put your suggestion, whatever remedies or any suggestions in the chat box. I think my co-host will read it out for me, right, Dr. Deepu? That
Yeah,
will
I
be
am
fine.
here. I am here. I am here. I
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
I can do it. Okay.
Yeah, so we will keep it as interactive session rather than a monotonous one-to-one session. And um, how many of you are depressed? Anyone? Can you someone tell me how many of you are depressed at this point of time? Maybe it is too early that I am asking you this question. You'll be thinking
Yeah,
what?
I think people will be
Yeah,
thinking.
you have to warm up little bit. Anyway, I think some will be thinking what rubbish. Who is depressed here and all? No, no, that is the point of this presentation. So many times we are not aware of our own what to say mental state, and we are not aware of our own mental state. So that's why we have kept it interactive so that we'll discover each other's vulnerabilities and what we have to look into uh, in our patients so that we can uh, give better solutions to their problems. So, so how many of you think it's okay to make mistakes? How many of you? And to have a bad days, or to be have less than perfect? Even I don't think so. I want to be perfect, all right, and I want my presentation to be 100%, and everyone should admire it. Nobody should tell any uh, bad things about that. That's what even I expect. And uh, you, you want to do the best always. And how many of you are want to be yourself? Very less, right? Even I am in the same career, so even I do such things. So uh, this is a premise, this is the starting point where we have to think about all these things. You may think, don't we know all these things? We are already seasoned practitioners. It's not about knowing or not knowing, it is only about the focus. So now we are focusing on women's mental health and menopausal depression, perimenopausal problems, and we'll be focusing in on all those points. And why is women's mental health more important? Why it is different? Um, like uh, uh, you will think, no, it is not that different and all. No, it is little different because they have many more roles than uh, any other age group people will have. This women means in the um, reproductive age, so they have different roles to play. They have so many challenges of physical, reproductive, as well as even biological factors. And there are so many social factors, stigmas, taboos, and other things. And also economic issues are stake. I'm not talking about political, that is little different. And they are having so many things, and they are caring for the sick relatives is the most burden, biggest burden for women, I can say. And they are the ones who are taking up that role, right? And how many of you will be caring at home a sick relative. I think many would have it, and they will not even think that it is a burden or it is a because it's a taboo. You can't tell that it's a very big stress or burden. So you have to take up that role with elan, with joy. So so expectations are too high, and moreover, along with that, they are even earning member of the family, and there are so many other consequences of hormonal imbalances. And so we are all talking about all these things because women's health is not just we gave medicine, they are better and it's done. It's not like that. It's a continuous process. They need help at all levels, and they need so physical as well as, I mean, medicinal as well as other supports as well. So in homeopathy, most of us are women, right? Girls join more to homeopathy, and we have a very definitive role to play in women's health if we are aware of challenges as well as what we can do. So it is more of like Hahnemann's ideal preserver of health rather than just removing the disease. We are preservers of health. So as we were talking why it is different, as they have conducted a study and they have seen that major depression and dysthymia are more in women than in men, and other psychiatric diagnosis like bipolar disorder. You are aware of bipolar disorder, right? There is more of depressive episodes uh, uh, rather than many of the episodes. And schizophrenia is little less in women, uh, but it could be one part of postpartum depression or that psychosis, or it could be the starting point. So women get it late, and they will continue in that schizophrenic disease. And we will talk about those cases as well. How we can recognize such cases. And eating disorders, we are well aware there is more of anorexia nervosa and bulimia in women rather than in men. And other other things, personality disorders are more of seen in women. We'll be talking about cases related to personality disorders as well. So we'll have a little. It's not that we don't know or we are not reading or something like that. It is only the focus. I already told that part. And what are the uh, these points of like peripartum? This is just before and after pregnancy, and premenstrual dysphoric disorder. See, I had a case of premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It can be very crippling, and you need to guess the remedy. I will tell the symptoms. That lady of 35, she's she will be so angry at her husband during this premenstrual time. She will throw things at him. She will beat him. That whole street will come and stand and will be watching their drama. So he also was depressed. He was under my care, and he wanted medicines for his wife. What would be the probable remedy you will think of in such a violent type of woman? Any guesses? Anyone? Can you guess what remedy could have been helped her? Yeah. Any suggestions? Yeah, Dr. Deepa, any? I think you have few suggestions, right? Yeah, I couldn't get the remedies, so she was given. Yeah. Uh, Hello, Dr. Deepa.
Yes,
Yeah, remedy suggestions are coming up,
remedy
I guess.
suggestions. Yeah. Lot of remedies
Yeah, please tell me few.
from Bell,
Okay.
Nicolosin, Nex, Ignatia, Nex, Sepia,
Super, super. Yeah,
and
yeah,
the Aconite, Ignatia sepia, again tuberculinum, sepia,
yeah,
sepia,
yeah,
sepia,
yeah.
tuberculinum.
Okay, okay. Very nice, very nice. Yeah,
And
I gave that
sepia
lady
got more
belladonna.
words. Sepia got
Yeah.
more words.
Pardon? I didn't get you.
Sepia is coming more.
Coming more. Okay, okay. No, that case, she didn't come up to me. Only I was treating based on her husband's symptom, whatever he has told me, and based on her violence and that anger, I gave her belladonna, and she improved. But see, again, my point is, social circumstances didn't improve. She had her mother's support, full support, and she was a working woman, and she didn't find it important to stop her violence. Did you get my point? So it's like a habit now. She can beat her husband in that anger, fit of anger. So I think we have to improve. Even social circumstances and other things are also needed, not just the remedy. And yeah, thank you for the response. We'll keep interacting in the same way. And these are all the different phases of the reproductive cycle of the woman, where they will have hormonal surge, hormonal changes, and they will have a problem related to that. So you can even see that, especially this infertility thing, um, that is most havoc. It creates most of the havoc because women are on hormones. They have been injected with hormones, and on the top of that, already they are depressed. They don't have a child, and other circumstances will be like whatever circumstances they get into, they will be thinking that is because of childlessness. On the top of that, they are not opening up. They don't come up and tell that I have this problem. So they will be closed type usually. So what could be the remedy? Yeah, very easy guess, and it's a top remedy for such cases. Yeah, yeah. I think few guesses will be there. Yeah, if I could have seen the responses, it would have been nice. Anyway, yeah, someone.
Ignatia is there, Pulsatile is coming, Natramur is coming, Ignatia
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
again Natramur, like that.
Yeah, Natramur top, right. And Natramur one name usually will be helpful for especially related to depression due to infertility. Because they are, again, I told you, they are close type, and they are having that guilt and that, uh, and they don't like to be consoled. So usually Natramur comes up top. And oral contraceptives, now it is rampant, right? And you would have seen the prescriptions of other doctors where even teenage girls will be put on oral contraceptives in the sense for bringing about the menses in PCOS cases. Yeah, that creates a big havoc on women's health as well as mental health. So we'll be talking about all those things, and you can even interact about those things. And empty nest syndrome. Yeah, this is a very key issue in menopausal depression, because most of the women they will start facing that empty nest syndrome. They are in the menopausal transition, and social circumstances have also changed. So we have to take into account of all the things. We can't just be thinking about those symptoms, right? So she has so and so symptoms, we have to give the medicine and it's over. It's not like that. So we'll be talking more about that. And uh, so you all know, well, hormones and mood have a very important role to play. The hormones have a direct effect on the mood. So there is a major depressive disorder in women starting at puberty, even schizophrenia and other diseases. And in marked in postmenopausal women, postmenopausal. So it is little less marked. And suicidal behavior. It is related to low estrogen states, and there is already talked about premenstrual dysphoric this thing, and postpartum and these things also will be contributory for depression as well as other mental illness. So what is PMS and PMDD? This is the they will have these things in common. They will have depression, anger, irritability, affective abilities. They will cry on very small things. You will be wondering why she is crying. It is such a small thing, but we homeopaths won't wonder. Anyway, common people will think why this lady is crying for such a small thing. They don't understand that it is their affective liabilities there, and they're anxious. They're very sensitive to rejection and other things. And physical things are prominent even in school going children, especially pre-pubertal and uh, just girls who have attained puberty. They will be very lethargic. They will be always lying down, watching TV, doing nothing. And whatever you ask them, they will be so, oh mama, I have to get up, I have to go. You do na, I don't want, something like that. Okay, so you suggest something and they get angry, and they will stamp this with something and all, tantrums, right? And we homeopaths, we know that these are all symptoms, and this is not a purposeful this thing. They are not disobeying us. It is a because of hormonal changes, but the common people will not understand that. So it is our part of our duty to tell them it is not just uh, disobedience. It is more to that. It is because of hormonal changes, right? And these are all screening, nice screening guidelines. I'll be sharing the slides so that you can read all these at free time. You can understand. I have done these slides keeping in mind that it should be helpful for you. You should go and refer to them, and you can read further about all those things. So that is my point. That's why my slides are a little crowded. You'll be seeing so much of writing there, unlike usual presenters. So, pregnancy mood, I will say, how many of you use biochemics in your day-to-day practice? Biochemics, any suggestions? Anyone use regularly or something like that? Okay, I'll assume you will be using it, or you want to use it maybe. I will say I will usually not use for my cases, like chronic cases. I never use prescribed biochemics. It is single remedy at a time, and phase remedies if needed, and everything one remedy at a time. But biochemics I will use as uh, what to say, functional placebos. Functional placebos in the sense I give the placebo, they will think that that is working for them, and it works to minimal extent. For example, for kids, children will have growing pains. They will usually overcome on their own. But when we give Calcarea for 6x daily dose, so they improve with that. Okay, it is a functional placebo, and it helps their improve their appetite as well. And I think you have so many suggestions for that, such functional placebos. But my chronic cases, I never use biochemics. And but in pregnancy related things, I have found um, biochemical remedies can even replace vitamin supplements and other things. No, I'm not against them, but they may not be a necessity when you are on biochemical remedies. But I never use combinations, not bio combinations. 5 first means califers, calcarifers, each separate, uh, not together. And I will tell my patients to keep all the remedies with you, whatever is needed. When you call me, I will tell you the name of the medicine, and you can take it. And it eases out most of the simple things, especially related to pregnancy as well as delivery. Because soon after delivery, they will have so many minor issues. But if we give constitutional remedies or remedies which have profound effect like pulsatilla or calcarea, there will be some changes like their milk secretion may reduce or the taste of milk may change as in calcarea. So I usually want to avoid any medication after childbirth. So biochemics are the best bet. So they help in minor ailments and it is safe for babies as well. Even it helps in vaccination, fever soon after vaccination for the baby. We can't stop the vaccination, at least we can treat the fever which comes up after vaccination in that way. So we have to make a way when there is nothing like. So screening things and all, it is only for further read. You can read on your own. And screening is, as such, it is not very relevant for us because in our setting we will be asking all the questions. But I just want you to be focused, more focused about those points, not to miss. That is the only point. And baby blues is different from psychosis. Baby blues is 85%. Everyone will go through that. If they have good care at home from mothers and grandmothers, they will not have much issues. They will come out of it. Yeah, but again, milder short-acting remedies or constitutional remedies, whichever is suitable, those remedies may be coming up. If needed, we can give those remedies. Even biochemics may help in this time. It is just feeling low. That's what baby blues. But postpartum psychosis is a serious issue. So it is like they will be going into deep depression, and they will be cut off from the whole world as such. So they will even want to kill their baby. So it is seen in 1 to 2 per thousand women. It's not common, but we have to be aware of it. That's what my point is. In one case, I will want to share with you. She's a lady of 37. She got married recently, and we know that family very well. And um, she had that uh, miscarriage at 4th month, natural, and she developed schizophrenia. And it came to that level that they were on the verge of getting divorced. And now, after some talks and all, they came back together now. uh, she is not my patient as such. I'm urging him, her husband, to bring her to me to take homeopathy help as well. She was on psychiatric test. She did well, and now again she is pregnant. I'm really afraid she may go into postpartum psychosis. Maybe, may not be. If not, God's grace. So why I'm telling this point is schizophrenia may start at that point of hormonal changes. So major psychiatric diseases we have to suspect, and we should have that point in mind. Okay, when there is transition in hormones, we have to think of even psychiatric illness. So that is the one thing. And now her husband is saying, I think they had a wrong diagnosis. She does not show any signs of schizophrenia. I told him, no, that was diagnosis was correct only because I have gone through the whole history. The only thing is they are not seeking homeopathy help, and that is the biggest what to say. We are helpless about that. We can't force people to take homeopathy, right? We know it's wondrous, marvelous, but we can't force people that it is effective, it is safe, it is good, and it is very sad actually. What to do? And this postpartum depression, yeah, uh, it is more or less same thing. This is allopathic way, that is psychiatrists what they do for those things. They have very minimal medicines for that. uh, because why I am putting all these things here means we should be aware of those things, right? We can't say I don't know, I didn't know. We have to be aware of it. Then only we know where we stand, what we can do. And believe me, all these areas are very potent areas for homeopathy. and we can provide relief like anything, provided they seek help. That is the only point. And uh, so this is the uh, points we have to remember. So now we will go for our point of discussion: menopause and perimenopause. So this is so many people come up with depression during menopausal transition. I had a case. She was with me for almost 2 years. She improved well. For She was coming for her piles problem. She was doing well, and she had even menorrhagia and dysmenorrhea. All these things were taken care of. But suddenly, one her family members will be coming to me, and they told she had a very major depression. She took treatment from a psychiatrist. She was held up in her home for 1 month. She didn't even get up and dress herself up, or brush her teeth or something like that. It was such a deep depression. And I thought, okay, allopathy does good. Okay, we can't deny that everything good is coming from homeopathy alone. No, we can't do. We can't tell like that. So they do a very good job. Yeah, and she was out of the depression. After 4 years, for some other reason, they had come to me, and then I came to know why she had depression in the first place. Now it is coming back, and she is having ruminating thoughts about the that episode. And there was a family problem. Her husband, and that led to that depression. Now I have to have the medicine. She had depression, and uh, after counseling and her family members, with the family member herself, she could come out of that problem. And she is a typical pulsatilla woman who was keeping she was helped with pulsatilla, and even this part she was helped with pulsatilla. She didn't go into major depression. That I want to say. So only homeopathy alone cannot be helping in all the circumstances. We have to sort out their problem, but we should not get it to their business. We have only we have to help them to sort out their problem. We should not sort out their problem. So there is a difference. We can talk about that. And any suggestions about that? What do you think? Any difference you could make out? You please tell me in the chat box. We'll talk about that later. And what is the difference between sorting out, helping them sorting out their problems, and we sorting out their problem? What is the difference? That's what I wanted to ask you. So if you could think about that, you please let me know. Or if the question is not clear, you let me know. I will make it a little more clear. So now perimenopause. The perimenopause transition is a time when they experience increased risk. So they will have a new depression or relapse as old one. And uh, there is also so many other things related to that. Because people think, oh, menopause means they will have so and so symptoms. It is general for everyone. No, it can come up in so many shades, so many ways. It's not that every menopausal woman will get into all those signs and symptoms. Some will be totally normal. One case I will narrate. She's a 39-year-old lady, and she came and told me, my menses has stopped for since 1 year, and what to do about that? I'm only now just 39 complete. So I told her, okay, it could be natural, but I will give you one remedy. If it is suppressed due to some condition, it will resume. Otherwise, it will be not coming. So I gave her natrum salicylatum. So natrum salicylatum 30 usually works, and whenever menses is suppressed due to some reason, it brings about the menses, especially mostly in menopausal women, perimenopausal women, without any other symptoms, major symptoms. So they If other symptoms like bloatedness, heaviness, and they're depressed, dull, feeling dull and all, other remedies come up. Maybe any remedies you suggest of, you please put in the chat box. For symptoms like bloatedness, heaviness, without menses appearing, there's a usual remedy. Yeah, and um she didn't menses didn't come. Like after that, um, so it was a premature menopause, but she is perfectly healthy. What to do about that? Nothing. You don't have to do anything, right? And so these things are commonly assumed that menopausal women will have all the set of symptoms. It may not be true. They will come up with different ways and colors and different things. And some will have hot flushes, cold flushes. Some will be very happy, jolly, no problems at all. They'll be still having more freedom. And but usual symptoms are weight gain, night sweats, and other things. So these things, how we can tackle with homeopathy, we'll be talking about those remedies. And Dr. Deepu or someone, can you tell what is in the chat box? So many suggestions coming up there. Uh, yeah, may I know what are the suggestions coming up? Any remedies? Yeah, I I know. Yeah, okay. And now I'll be resuming my talk. You keep posting in the chat box. I will see them later. And there is we talked about socio-cultural and family factors. In that case, how I told that lady ended up in deep depression. Um, and anxiety. These things they won't respond to usual therapies in allopathic setting. So homeopathy is the best. And uh, remedies also will be sorting out remedies based on the symptoms. And what are the types of depression? And this really matters. Do you think types of depression really matters? Yes or no? No idea. Like types of depression matters. I think it matters because major depressive disorder is what I said. I can show you the one case example as well. So there, they will have. It's not treated only with medicines. It needs so many other things to be taken into account for treating major depressive disorder. But dysthymia is a very common thing. Every woman will be dysthymic. Like they will only have lethargic, they are not feeling like doing anything, or they will be having aches and pains. And they think they are guilty of that. Okay, I'm not productive. I have become lazy. Okay, that is the commonest thing. That is uh, and it reduces their capacity, and they will be ending up in major health setbacks due to that dysthymia. So if we know that it is not simple lethargy or simple uh, problem, then we can help them with constitutional remedies as well as other remedies, supportive remedies, and we can even counsel their family members. See, they are not doing this purposefully. They need care, they need support. So that's why we need to know the types of depression. And stress-induced depression, just like in Corona, every most of us could be depression, could be, but the individual reaction differs. One of my friend was telling she was so scared. She herself up in the room, and she was scared. She didn't talk to anyone for 4 5 days. So it was a situation depression, and she came out of it slowly, gradually. Usually, stress-induced depression does not need any much support, but seasonal affective disorder needs that. It could be in winter or high peak summer. So there will be very mood upsets. So those things we should be aware of. That's what needed. And in bipolar disorder, it is a grave condition, right? It is a serious condition, and we need other supports while treating such grave conditions, or where there is violence, or where there is problems involved. Even safety of the physician is at stake. We need support. So for that, we need to know what type of depression is. Okay, and subclinical depression is the commonest thing that maybe even physicians, all doctors who are in perimenopausal age, they could have gone through that, or it could be due to thyroid disorders or other things. So these things are all very important. And how it can be evaluated? Evaluation is based on stage of menopause, and overlapping menopausal and psychiatric symptoms, and other psychosocial factors, differential diagnosis. We all talked about all these things, and scales. Scales also, you can use PHQ scales and QID scales. They can be downloaded from the online, and they can be used actually. They give one insight about the level at which that woman is, and how much risk she is posing, like for herself, I mean, not for us, for herself. So the challenge is to know the difference between major depression and menopausal depression, and we need to go by socio-psycho, bio-socio-psychological model. You have to take care of all the 3 points. Biological is medicine, social is circumstances, psychological is providing counseling and guidance, and we have to take care of other remedies and medications they are in, so that we can reduce that impact as well. We should know why they are coming into this. So if we know that medicine they are taking, that's why they are ending up with depression, we can have some point to check about. So, those are all essential. We need to know. We need to know. And few remedy suggestions here. I will ask you, I will tell the remedies. You just suggest a few more so that we can add to our repertoire. Okay. Please avoid common things. Better you suggest remedies which you have found helpful. So in that way, it will be a uh, uh, little more comprehensive. Fine. So usually for sleep alterations, what remedies you will use? I have used, especially they will have more sleep in the daytime and less at night. Night they will be getting up, and they will be anxious. They will have sweating and palpitations. But morning day they will sleep like 3 hours, like a long. So what remedies you will? It is not separately. You won't be treating them. But anyway, I'm just asking for suggestions. Yeah. Dr. Deepu or someone, can you tell me what are the suggestions coming up? I could see so many remedies. Please tell me the suggestions. You're not allowed to unmute yourself, right? Yeah. Taman? Mm, I couldn't see the chat box. Fine. Remedy suggestions. I couldn't see what and all remedies are coming up. Anyway, China, Staphylococcus aureus, I have used them they have helped in few cases. And Natramor. Natramor is especially suitable for palpitation, right? You are very well aware of that. They will be having palpitation. The heart beats like the chest cage will be moving with that. They have that feeling, right? When lying down. Yeah. And typically they will come up with such uh, explanations, like while narrating. So that is those are all remedies. Even Califos will be very helpful for sleep disturbances. If it is not much other problems are there, Califos also 200 usually I use. uh, and remedies for anxiety, palpitation, And these are all usually, it comes under these remedies. China, Staphylococcus, Netamur, Calcarea, Califas, and other things, right? Even anxiety, you can come think of Aconite. And there was one lady of 65, I think. Uh, yeah, of course, postmenopause. So she had anxiety, and she was on Aconite for almost for months together. She will get her bottle filled up whenever
Lekha,
she.
can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Actually, I was here and I was talking loudly, but my phone got stuck and I just restarted it. Okay.
Fine, fine, fine. I couldn't hear.
Sorry, sorry
Yeah,
that,
please.
sorry that I have.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, remedy suggestions I was asking. I could see some.
Can anyone can please type? I just got some disconnected now. Can you? I think
Oh,
I have seen Pansatla, Naxamica,
yeah.
Bisintinum like that.
Yeah.
Passiflora,
Lacases,
Passiflora.
opium, sulfur. Yeah, I could see that. I could see. Yeah, passiflora. Super, super. Very nice.
Amyl
Yeah,
nitrosum.
yeah. Amylase. Yeah, those remedies are the commonest things. And I'm glad that even other doctors are finding them very helpful in their practice, right? Yeah. And excessive sweating, yeah, amyl nitrosum. That is one of the top remedies. I have seen it very helpful. Uh, I could see that coming up in the, and lacasis, yeah, especially for sleeplessness. Sorry, I forgot to add that, right? Yeah, lacasis. And that is for both the things, sleep and palpitation, and in general for menopausal issues. Yeah, and lacases. Yeah, fine. I think I could Pisidia. Yeah, fine. We will talk about that a little later. Like I won't be using mother tinctures. I have very little knowledge about them. Okay, fine. We will talk about that.
No,
Seasonal
doctor,
care.
some more medicine suggestions are the sulfur, conium.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I think they are all, you have used them, right, doctors? I guess so. Yeah, and uh, these remedies are which I have used regularly. It's not the only these remedies. I will use others also. I have coming up with them again and again. That's why I'm writing it them down. Fine. And reassurance, lots of reassurance you have to do, right? So they'll be talking. They'll be asking so many questions, and they will sometimes drain you out of your energy. But it's a role you have to take up. No other role. And this, especially, I want to talk about this perimenopausal women with raised blood pressure. So, see, doctors will immediately put them on like to reduce the blood pressure. Actually, that's wrong. That is a natural process, and it should be let to be in that way. Unless it is 180 or 180 by 110 or 200, it reaches 200. It is out of control. If it is 140, you advise your patient not to go for antihypertensive. They'll be very much helped with high risk vesicle. I have seen this remedy again and again. It has been so helpful, especially in
Ma'am,
raised
people are
blood.
regarding the potency and repetition too. Okay.
Yeah, okay, fine. High risk vesicle, I usually go for 30 potency, and it can be used 3 days in a week, or only single dose, or repeated according to the need. I will usually 3 days in a week, 1 week gap, again 3 days. In that way, they'll be asked to repeat. Unless they have aggravations after the remedy, they have to stop it. If they get aggravated after the remedy, they need to stop it. That is Hahnemann in way of uh, using remedies. So, iris vesicle, usually all remedies, even conium, I will use in 30 potency. 30 potency, weekly one dose. That is more than enough. Usually 1 or 2 doses is enough. I will say them weekly once you take. After second or third dose, that's done. And once they are feeling better, they will stop on their own. They will forget it. Oh, doctor, I forgot. I didn't take it. Oh, fine. That's enough. You don't have to repeat the remedy. And bryonia I will usually use in 200 potency, but it's not like a rule. It could be 6. I start from 6. If it is a new case, I'm not aware of their sensitivity, I'll start with 60 unless it demands the exact potency. And alumina 6C is most helpful for menopausal women who feel very weak, their back ache, and they can't stand, their legs feel very weak, they can't walk about, they're feeling in general, they are feeling drained. So alumina 6C with constipation, of course. That is the keynote. So usually bryonia and alumina, uh, they may be needed like one after another. If it is giddiness, I will use bryonia to start with, and they may need alumina at some point of time, or the vice versa. If I go for alumina for the first time when they are feeling very weak and tired, and they will have the typical metals symptoms, and then they may acute phase, they may need bryonia. So you know that they both are complementary. So pulsatilla alumina is pulsatilla features with extreme prostration, right? VP and crying. Any suggestions? I'm seeing there. Yeah, fine. Yeah, can you show the scale used? At present, I can't show that. You can search under David Little. You will find Hahnemann scale. That's what you are asking, I think. Or you are asking about other scale. We will talk about that later. Yeah. And Silesia and Pulsatilla are also complementary to each other. So Kalika and Natromur, they work well together. Even Natromur and Dacasis, Sepia and Natromur. So you may be needing phase remedies as well as chronic remedies, and vice versa, but not together. All according to the case. Yeah. And this cessation of menses with bloatedness, this I asked you, you could have suggested few remedies. This is especially lycopodium, especially lycopodium. It has worked wonders. And added to that, if they have some, I usually start with 6, as I told you. But lycopodium 630, 200, 1M, all potencies I use. Ideal is 200. If case demands, and even it brings about the menses if it has stopped up, like Korea. And colchicum is with that no appetite, they feel nauseated with even thinking about the food. That is there in sepia as well, but it as the case demands again. And natrum salicylatum, I told you about that case. Yeah, this you can try 30. Usually I use 30. And other natrum group remedies, natrum carb has been very helpful, especially those women who are very close type. You know very well aware of natrum group. Natrum more women could be a little cheerful, always smiling. They want to please you. They want to tell only good things. They will hide all negative things. But natrum carb women will not come up. You ask 10 questions, they will sit. Okay. No. Yes, that's it. It's very difficult to take symptoms of natrum carb pit. And they have that headache, which is worse before a thunderstorm. So, yeah. Migraines, this has been a commonest thing among perimenopausal women. Commonest thing. One lady, she will have every Sunday headache. That was strange for me at that time. And she improved with natrum again. And then I came to know that there is one condition where they will have holiday headaches. My God. So our homeopathic remedies are so full of information about so many varieties of conditions, which mainstream uh, researchers are now coming up with those things, those conditions. They are naming those conditions, and we are already treating them with effect. Such a wonderful thing, right? And you will see that holiday headaches, holiday migraines, fine. And for migraines, especially Silicea and Sanguinaria have been the topmost. So unless case demands, and Sanguinaria you will be aware of their aversion to curds. Yeah, but I haven't specifically asked about that symptom, but usually they will tell that they are averse to curd or yogurt. Yeah, Silicea is with sneezing and lots of allergic reaction. But Natromur with hot weather and other things. Ipecac with nausea and even sometimes vomiting. And even suppressed menses. It brings about the menses when it is suppressed menses, headache and nausea. So that combination, Ipecac brings about menses. And usually one single remedy won't be helping. At least for me, it didn't help in that way. It has to be sequential. So as the case demands, we are moving up with the remedies, and especially we will have. And now I am seeing lots of sciatica cases, and you are well aware of sciatica cases. No? Which one is the top remedy for right-sided sciatica? Can I get some suggestions? Yes, right-sided sciatica, but I have seen more of left-sided. Yeah, please.
Lachesis,
Fine, exactly.
Diasporia rustox,
Fine.
Diasporia rustox,
Yeah,
Lycopodium,
like
Ammonium mure, Nephalium,
Nephalium. Fine.
Ostrichum,
May I know what is the feature of Nephalium? Any guess? Anyone can tell me
Valeriana.
that? Yeah.
Can anyone tell us the Nephalium features? I think George T. Ben to everyone. With
Yeah,
the
exactly. Numbness. Fine. Super fine. Awesome. Thank you. You are all okay. Fine. I think okay. It's working. You are all interacting with me. I'm so happy. Yeah, fine. Nephalium I have found it's not exactly menopausal women, post-menopausal women, like 65 years, 70 years old. And they are coming up with this sciatica and they are benefited with nephalium. They have very less symptoms. They have only that numbness is prominent for them. And you know that it is a common symptom of sciatica. But still, it works. But it is not that I start with nephalium. I start with their constitutional remedy, all the other features considering. When that is not helping them anymore, I will go for nephalium. So it is my rule. I won't use uh, rare remedies or not so regular remedies. I mean polycrush in the first sitting, unless case demands. Unless case demands. That is the thing. Yeah, nephalium and yeah, these things are very important. That's why I again and again I am stressing. And anyone, I think now most of you have done MSc in psychology, right? So you'll be aware of cognitive behavior therapy. So what is cognitive behavior therapy? Can someone tell in one line something like that? I think most of us homeopaths will be doing MSc psychology, right?
yes.
Yeah. If someone could suggest, it will be fine. I'll be moving on to the next. Yeah, but
Can you repeat the question, ma'am? I think many
yeah,
haven't heard.
no, I want to know what is cognitive behavior therapy in 1 or 2 words exactly. What does that mean? What they do in cognitive behavior therapy?
Okay.
Yeah,
Now I can mean talk therapy.
yeah. Talk therapy. Okay. Yeah, and coping with the today tension. Fine.
Is
Okay.
coping with the stage and commonly used in anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
counseling,
No, actually, see,
practical approach to problem solving.
yeah, exactly. This is it fits more practical approach to problem solving. Yeah, cognitive behavior therapy is like the therapist and the patient both sit together. They will list out the things, and they become. He will be made aware of the problems, and
Yes,
he
yes.
will be asked to overcome them on his own. He has to give a game plan for what he is going to do and what he wants to achieve. The role of the therapist is only to help him to do this. Otherwise, therapist is not doing anything. Everything is done by the uh, patient himself. So this is the basis of cognitive behavior therapy, and it is a very elaborate thing. It is not done in common settings, but we homeopaths usually use most of the techniques in our clinics. Most of the techniques, I can say that, because even I use that. So we empower our patients, right? That is done by cognitive behavior therapy. So now I am sharing cases. Actually, I couldn't come up with many cases